It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has gone on for 12 seasons and is set for at least 2 more, which will tie it with Ozzie and Harriet for the longest-running live-action sitcom in American television history. Not bad for a show that started as a pilot made by 3 friends with basically no budget. Despite being on the air since before some of its fans were even born, it never seems to lose its edge. Why is that? So I'm not going to talk about the obvious talent of the show's cast and crew. If you're a fan of the show, you're already more than aware of that. Instead, in this video, I want to take a different approach. Basically, when writing characters, there are a few different ways you can go about it, but the most common approach for a sitcom is to start with a pretty bland, one-dimensional character who you know a few things about, and then the rest gets fledged out once you've found your actor. It's why it often annoys me when I hear people say things like, Rainn Wilson was the perfect Dwight. They're not wrong, but it shows a misunderstanding of the way TV characters are written. The writers play to each actor's strengths, which change depending on the actor, and the character changes with it. The character of Dwight would have been almost completely unrecognizable if he had been played by someone like Seth Rogen, who actually auditioned for that role. Or on Friends, it was Monica and Joey who were supposed to end up together, but when the chemistry felt off, the writers changed it to her and Chandler. In the case of Sunny, the actors were the writers. Dennis, Mac, and Charlie were all written by and for the actors who portray them. So there was a level of control and collaboration that's almost unheard of for a television show, which gave them a more intimate knowledge of the character than you would typically see on a sitcom. And this is evident in each character's backstory, like in the case of their parents. Let's start with Charlie. There's a possibility that Frank is his father, but growing up, he never knew who his father was. So he was raised by his mother. The other characters constantly poke fun and call her a whore, which Charlie detests, but we find out that that is literally true in the Christmas special.
The Santas that come over on Christmas morning to cheer my mom up.
The Santas, plural? What the hell are you talking about?
I hate to break this to you, man, but based on the story that you just told me, I think your mother was a prostitute.
What?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I'm just
no, dude, they would just give my mom money and go in the...
Yeah. Chew on that for a second.
She's sweet and loving, but naive, and as a single mother with an only child who survived an attempted abortion, it's safe to say she lets him get away with pretty much whatever he wants. So when he gets into sniffing glue or throwing rocks at trains, she lets it continue. And when he starts hanging out with other kids who prove to be a bad influence, it goes unchecked. Which brings us to Mac. Most of his childhood, his father was in prison, so he grew up constantly seeking approval from him, like many children whose fathers aren't around much. Raised strictly as a Catholic, largely by a single mother who spends most of her days breathing more cigarette smoke than she does air, all while glued to the TV. It's safe to say he was pretty neglected in his childhood, which is why he's always the one of the gang that's the most desperate for attention and approval, always trying to show off how much of a badass he is.
I scored an actual point in an actual karate tournament and against an actual black belt.
You made a poo-poo in your pants! Did anybody else do a poo-poo in their pants?
Of course.
It's also safe to assume, based on what we see, that she didn't do a whole lot of cleaning herself and that Mac picked up those duties, which explains why he's obsessed with keeping such a clean place, as shown in the season 5 episode Mac and Dennis break up. Sprinkle in some closeted homosexuality and you've got the perfect recipe for the total narcissist macho douchebag with serious daddy issues that is Mac. Daddy issues, by the way, that never quite resolve, but instead are transposed onto someone else. Which brings us to Dennis. And Dee. We get a deeper insight into their parents than we do with Mac or Charlie, as Frank, their father, is one of the main characters. A greedy, manipulative, bigoted, drug-addicted little gremlin of a man who made millions running sweatshops and scamming people. He married Barbara, who we see a few times in the first couple of seasons. She's vain, selfish, completely spoiled rotten, and in general just fits the bill for many trophy wives.
Wealthy. I never knew.
Looking at those two together, it's no wonder that Dennis and Dee both turned out to be arguably the most narcissistic two characters on the show. with grand delusions of their intellect and talent, with seemingly no self-awareness of the substantial failures in both of their lives. Dee is no closer to becoming a professional actress, but still keeps the dream alive, despite finding out that she's not cut out for success even if she had a huge break like we see in The Gang Broke Dee. Despite never so much as getting a paid gig as an actress, she still is so quick to act like a complete diva at the slightest hint of success.
Whoa, excuse me. Can I help you?
Oh, great. Non-fat, sugar-free vanilla soy latte, 3 shots, no foam. Also, why don't you go ahead and let me in here so I can start my vocal warm-ups?
Dennis never even started on the path to becoming a veterinarian. He has yet to publish his memoirs and has a totally skewed memory of his youth, where he recalls being the most popular guy in school. As he puts it, a legend.
I am a legend over there, and they completely goddamn disrespected me. Little idiots! Idiots! They come zapping us and zapping us. Idiots! Savages! Idiots! Idiots!
Even when confronted with the contradicting truth in episodes like The Gang Reignites the Rivalry or in the 2-part The High School Reunion, he still holds to his version of the truth.
I am the king of the minions, not Tim Murphy, not that jerk-off idiot! Hey, you jerk-off! She rejected me. Me, Frank, me, the coolest guy in the history of this goddamn school. Oh, they're all gonna pay. They're all gonna pay the ultimate price.
Which is why he exhibits the most psychopathic tendencies of the rest of the gang.
Tools! Tools! Duct tape, zip ties, and gloves. I have to have my tools.
Having a god complex like that must make dealing with people he deems inferior quite the chore. And it's why he also has incredibly volatile outbursts that genuinely frighten the
Are you
others.
saying that you have a collection of skin luggage?
Of course I'm not, Dee. Don't be ridiculous. Think of the smell. You haven't thought of the smell, you bitch!
All of which culminate into one of the finest Dennis episodes the show has ever done. Mac and Dennis move to the suburbs.
Because I hate you!
Which leaves us with Frank. Actually, we don't know anything about his parents, so we're going to skip past him. But having that foundation built into your character's history is how you can stay true to a character, even after 12 years. Something else the show does is play with standard TV tropes. There are a lot that the show toys around with, too many to cover in one video, but in keeping with the theme of character, the trope that they seem to have the most fun with is the idea of these people only ever hanging out with each other. On every sitcom that I can think of, the main cast never changes. The show revolves around this small group of people from start to finish. Whether that's coworkers at an office, a small suburban family, or some young and attractive friends in a city, it's how every major sitcom functions. Obviously, as an audience, we know it's because it's a TV show. You have your main cast that predominantly make up the show, with some guest stars and other supporting roles to fledge out the scenes that don't involve the entire group at the same time. But it's not really an accurate reflection of how most people live their lives, where we meet new people constantly, and where the average person's social circle changes pretty dramatically over the years. Sunny takes this idea and runs with it. What would actually happen if you surrounded yourself by the same people every single day of your life? And what would happen when these people are all egotistical morons? Regardless of what is thrown at the gang, they never learn or grow from anything that happens. They've been addicted to drugs, witnessed to murder, involved in a hostage situation, dealt with loss of loved ones, confronted a serial killer, tackled every hot-button political topic imaginable, but eventually, they always just end up back at the bar, no different for having gone through any of these experiences. Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad, states that television is historically good at keeping its characters in a self-imposed stasis, so that the show can go on for years, or even decades. Which is normally a point of contention that I have with most shows, but with It's Always Sunny, this self-imposed stasis is exactly what continues to make the show work. They're too self-centered to ever address the very real and very numerous problems in their lives. And no matter how cruel they can be to each other, they always come back because it's what's familiar. And considering the pattern of destruction they have when interacting with people outside of the gang, no one else really wants anything to do with any of them, except for the people who are just as much of a mess as they are, like the McPoyles or the Ponderosas. So they continue to spiral downwards, becoming more selfish and vain and greedy as the show goes forward. And that's the magic of the show. It's why I'm still not tired of it. There's something so oddly satisfying about seeing these complete assholes go through all of this suffering, but never grasp that they are the cause of their own misery, and never learn from any of their mistakes. Honestly, as long as the main cast and writers are still working on the show, I'd happily watch it until the gang were middle-aged just to see how crazy they get. But as of now, it's probably the most perfect run a sitcom has ever had. Certainly for a sitcom that's lasted this long. And while a lot of that credit belongs to the brilliant cast and incredible crew of writers and directors, set designers, script supervisors, and so on, I think that characters in this kind of long-form storytelling only work when they remain true, never doing anything out of character. The gang is still the same mess of ego and denial living in their own reality distortion field, and I love them for it. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the people pledging to me on Patreon. I don't really make any money through ad revenue, so any support on Patreon means absolutely everything to me, and I just wanted to say thank you for those of you who are pledging. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to one of my favorite channels, Beyond the Frame. If you're looking for more film-related content on the site, I think that he's one of the absolute best at it. I think he deserves a lot more attention than he gets, so be sure to go over there and show him some love. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.